Now it's, no, now it's not. Oh, we're recording. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, good morning. I feel like this week is flying by. I don't know how you guys feel, but I was like, whew, it's Wednesday. Quickly. Okay, so I have a couple of really great things I want to share with you guys today. I know, same, Amber. Yeah, it's nuts. It's totally crazy. And we're actually in Indiana this week visiting some of Adam's family. And so I've been working from here this week. So I was like finger crossing that my Wi-Fi was going to be good today. So it's been interesting. Yes. Okay. Yes, Stephanie. Thank you. I know several people were on Ignite too. Okay, guys. So I'm going to start with this, and you'll see why in about halfway through. But instead of posting something you're grateful for today, totally curious. What's your favorite day of the week? And if you want to say why, then type it in there. But would love to know what your favorite day of the week is. And I'll expand on that in a minute. I know I see several of you pondering what it is. And mine actually typically used to be Monday because I like just a fresh start of the week. I especially love Sundays now. And yeah, okay, so a lot of weekends, yeah, Sunday, Saturday. Monday and Saturday. Yep, same, Abby. That was me. Saturday. So funny. Okay, so we'll see why when we continue to do that. Just touching base on homework from last week. If any of you listened to the episode 77, We Stand Together on the podcast, would love your feedback in the chat. And if any of you watched The Human Race from Andy Stanley's message, would love feedback on that too. If anybody watched it and you just want to comment on it in the chat, that would be awesome. Teresa Blakeman, oh my gosh, hi Teresa, and that is hilarious. Does anyone really know what day it is? I swear I would say for the last maybe how long have we been in this now? 15 weeks, 16 weeks. It has been interesting to know what day it is. Yes, to keep up. Thank you, Barb, for watching. Yeah, so just wanted to get y'all's feedback on those. Okay, so here's the lesson that we're going to thank you, Dawn, thank you for watching, that we're going to talk about today. Has anyone, this is going to be your homework if you haven't, and here's the deal, even if you are not a country music fan, I would highly suggest this. So I, over the weekend, watched the Garth Brooks Netflix documentary. Have you seen it? I can see Jeff. I see you shaking your head. Okay, so if you've seen it, let me know in the chat. And if you haven't, it's your homework for the week. And even if you have, I would encourage you to watch it again because this is no joke. First of all, I'm a psycho note taker, and I fully am aware of that. But I took 8 pages. I went back and after I was about 75% done with episode 1, I went back and started over and started taking notes. And I took like 8 pages of notes of his life and just a lot of things that stuck out to me. And so I wanted to kind of share some of those things with you guys. And honestly, it's such a great life lesson, and it's such a great story. So a couple things, and then I'm going to share with you some ahas, and then I'm going to talk about loving our workplace. So a couple of things that really stood out to me. Actually, you know what? Let me just go to this first. Okay, here we go. And this will help me kind of walk through. So Garth was from a small town called Stillwater, Oklahoma. And it was interesting because he said that he could remember to this day, the defining moment in his life. He was a sophomore in high school, and he was driving in the car with his dad to the grocery store. No, I'm sorry. He was a sophomore in college. He was in between his freshman year and sophomore year in college. And he said that he was driving to the grocery store with his dad, and that a song came on the radio, and it was George Strait, Unwound. I had to go back and look that up. It was Unwound by George Strait. And he said that at that moment, he knew that that's what he wanted to do with the rest of his life. He wanted to be an entertainer. His mom was a singer. He had a great voice. So he said still to this day, he can remember that exact defining moment in his life. And I thought, man, I wonder if any of us can think of a defining moment in our life, because I had to really think about that. Like I don't remember how old he is right now, Garth, but to know that defining moment to me was crazy. And so then he said, there's so many great stories. That's why I really want you guys to watch this. There's so many great stories in his documentary. And one of the stories was, he said, sometimes your most driving forces aren't your greatest memories. And he didn't actually share specifically the example he was talking about. But what he did share was he went to Nashville. He gathered some money from some of his buddies and his friends, and they kind of sponsored him, if you will, to go to Nashville. Which this was crazy because number 3 I have on here, he beat the odds. Did you know that only 5%, there are hundreds of thousands of people that go to Nashville annually because they want to become famous. And only 5% of the people that go to Nashville actually even end up with some sort of a record label or a contract. Not, of course, not that they even get to the Garth Brooks level, but only 5% do. So he beat the odds. So this was crazy. The first time that he went, he only lasted 2 days. And he came back home because he said he ran out of money and he didn't know what to do. And so he said that when he came back, and he didn't share specifically the story because he was actually kind of getting emotional when he was talking about it. But he said that he came back and he said his dad had some sort of a conversation with him that he said, I don't want to repeat it because he said my dad was a really sweet man and that might not portray him in this way. But he said that moment was his driving force in life, but it wasn't necessarily his greatest memory. I'm assuming maybe his dad said something that just wasn't kind or didn't maybe resonate with him. And so he said that was one of his most driving forces. So then, so here's the next thing that I wanted, a story I wanted to share with you guys, and you'll hear it in there. But this to me was crazy. So he ended up going back to Nashville, and he said his motto in life has always been everything is a blessing and a curse. And he does his hands like this multiple times in the documentary. And he said, it's a blessing and a curse, and it's a blessing and a curse. And so he said that he went back to Nashville, and long story short, I'm going to butcher it. This is why you guys have to watch it. But long story short, he went back to Nashville. This time he was married. He took his wife. They had a roommates. They lived in this little house so that they could just afford to be there. And he said that he ended up getting his manager, a guy by the name of Bob Doyle. And he said he really connected with Garth, and Garth really connected with him. And so one day they went around, Bob and Garth, to 7 different record labels. And talk about mindset. This is why I wanted to share this with you guys, and it'll relate. It'll all click in a minute. He went to 7 different record labels in one day, and every single one of them told him no. And he said they were in the truck. Bob was driving, the manager. They were driving home, and he said they pulled into their driveway or wherever they were. And he said, Bob, he's distinctly remembered, Bob put the truck in park. Garth said, I leaned into the floorboard to pick up some papers that were down there, and he said, Bob said to me, this is going to happen. It's going to take time, but I know it's going to happen. It's just a matter of when. And so Garth said one of his life-changing moments was somebody else believed in him more than he believed in himself. And he said, I thought to myself, if this is how he's believing in me, then I need to believe in myself this much too. I need to think of myself this much because it's going to happen. It's just a matter of when. Y'all, that very night, this gives me goosebumps. Like, I mean, I just was like, I'm not a crier, and I was sobbing when I was watching this. That very night, he went to the Bluebird Cafe. If any of you are familiar with Nashville, you may have been to the Bluebird. It's one of my favorite places. He went to the Bluebird Cafe. He was 7th in line that night to perform. He was supposed to go up number 7. And instead, Frankie, come here, buddy. Sorry, Frankie's crying. He was 7th in line to perform that night. And by the 7th person that goes, it's late. All of the good record label people have already gone home for the night. And he said that something in him just said, get there early and watch who your competition is. Because he's very big on competing. And so he got there, and the guy that owned the Bluebird, or the manager, came up to him and said, hey, Garth, the number 2 guy hasn't shown up yet, and we can't get a hold of him. So if he doesn't show up, can you go on as number 2? And Garth said, yeah, I'd love to. I'd love to go on as number 2. And so he said that he never showed up. Well, all these big record label guys were there to watch the number 2 guy. And so Garth, he never showed up. And so Garth got to go on as number 2. Well, he brought the house down. I mean, everybody was into him. I mean, he just connected with the audience. And so right after that, the guy who owns, let's see, what was it? Hold on, I'm gonna not remember the name of it. The guy that was the main guy at Capitol Records was there to see the number 2 guy. And because he didn't show and Garth performed and brought the house down, he came up to him afterwards and said, man, I know I told you no earlier today, but I missed something and that was my bad. So will you come back in and talk to me this week? And Garth did. And that was the beginning of Garth Brooks' career with Capitol Records, which has led him, honestly, to be now the single most individual sold record artist of all time, only to fall behind number one, which is number two to the Beatles, who's a group, right? Not an individual. And it is just the craziest story. And so he said, honestly, his life-changing moment was he was in the right place at the right time. And he believed in himself because someone else did. And then here's another crazy story. So after that, his mom came to one of his shows, and his mom came out after he performed, and in front of his whole management and his crew and everything, she said, Garth, y'all, this record's going to sell 1 million copies. And he said, his manager's telling this story, and he said, we just said, oh, anybody's mom would say that, but that's nice of her to say that. You know, she's just saying what any mom would say. And that album went on to sell over, I think it was 14 million copies. Yeah. And so he said one of his life-changing moments was his mom actually marked him with her words when she spoke that out loud. And so it just made me think, what are we speaking out loud? Like, what are we saying? And then another, I could talk about this for 2 hours. It was so good. But another one of his, this was the point. I don't know if you guys really know his story. I did not know this, but he actually retired when he was, I think, right after early 40s, maybe. I can't remember maybe it was before that, what his age was. But he said the defining moment was he had 3 little girls. And he said he came home, he was talking to his daughters one night, and one of his daughters kept saying something, Booth. And he said, what is she saying? And he said, say that again. And she said, Booth. And he said, what in the world are you saying? Well, turns out she was saying both, but she had the accent of her nanny. And he said, that was a defining moment in my life, that my child had not my accent or my wife's accent, but my nanny's accent. And so he retired and was retired for 14 years. And then obviously recently or a few years ago, just came back out and has broken records of all kinds. So he said, you have to be aware of what's happening in your life with your kids, your work-life balance. And then he talks a lot about meeting Trisha Yearwood, and now obviously them being married and having their life together. But I mean, talk about defining moments. So here's the thing that I want y'all to go watch this as your homework. Even if you don't like country music, and even if you're not a Garth Brooks fan, I mean, I am, but I had no clue that his story, his mindset during all of these times, and just the way that he has pursued his life. I mean, it's the most amazing thing. Oh, here it is. I'm sorry. When his mom marked him with those words, it was Rope in the Wind, and it sold 18 million copies, that album did. And they were laughing when she said one. So just think about that. And I really want y'all to go watch that. What did Jeff say? Booed off stage singing karaoke. That is hilarious. Blair, I agree. Never give up on your dreams, Jeff. There may be another time in there for you. That's great. Okay, so here's what I want to get into next. And obviously Garth loved what he did, and he loved where he worked. And even if you work at home as a stay-at-home parent, or even if you run a big organization, or even if you are self-employed, there's a lot of lessons in this. And this is a message that I actually found and have saved and look at a lot back from 2016. And so this is why I wanted to know your day of the week. 82% of the population hates Mondays. We dread Monday and we dream of Friday. And I think we proved that true because so many people's favorite, it seems like favorite day was Saturday or Sunday. But 82% of the population hates Mondays. And so whether you're a person of faith or not, there are a lot of lessons in this. So here's the thing. Number one, your workplace can be your worship space. So if you're a person of faith, or even you're a person of just a really great mindset, we should be the best employers and the best employees that we can, because work is an act of worship for us. It's a way that we can give back. It's a way that we can help other people. It's a way that we can, yesterday, Linda McKissick and I recorded a podcast with a guy named Sid Walker. It's not going to drop for a couple more weeks, but Linda met Sid. I'm not even sure how. He actually he's written a book for anybody who is in real estate on here. He's written several great books. One of them is called Living in the Zone. And another one is all about if you have a fear of cold calling or of prospecting, basically. He teaches you how to overcome that and how to be relationship based. But one of the biggest lessons I learned from him yesterday is he said, so often we fail to trust our intuition. And so you have to be intuitive about who you can touch, help, and inspire change, especially those around you, and even the people that you serve client-wise. Think about that. Think of it that way. Number 2 is your low position can have a really high purpose, because each of us has been given a special way of serving others. The way that I may serve others is different than the way that Jeff may, or Monica may, or Blair may. We all we've been given a special way of serving others. And he said, you can take what feels menial and make it really meaningful. So even if you have a task of, I don't know, I'm trying to think of something that could be, answering phones, or I don't know, something that maybe, the president may seem as menial, you can turn that into something really meaningful, no matter what your tasks are in the day. With your position, you can take that and make it very, very meaningful. And if you are a person of faith, use your career as a calling to worship God and to show others that through his love, through your actions, because honestly, you can make a big difference in people's lives around you. And then the third is every boss on earth has a boss in heaven. So if you're a person of faith, you have to work for a higher purpose. You have to work for God, not for the people. This has been a big lesson that I've learned. And then these last couple things, I want to take a minute and spend a little bit of time on this. We get to do what we do every single day. And a lot of times I've been guilty of this too. We may wake up and be like, oh, I have to make all these calls today. I have to be on all these Zooms. I have to return all these emails. I have to deal with these crazy clients. Whatever it may be, I have to do all the stuff at work. Reframe your mindset to we get to do what we do every day. And there's a lot of people that would love to get to do what we do every single day, what you do every single day. And it's a blessing to do it. And just remember that, because even on the hardest days, no matter where you work or what your career is or who you work for, we all have the days that aren't great. And we all have the days where we're like, man, this stinks. But it's a blessing to do what we get to do. And we just need to remember that. And then make every day a bright opportunity for something. Every day there should be an opportunity for some sort of something with your mindset. And are you paying attention to, are you loving on, and are you helping the people who work for you? So if you have people who work for you, are you paying attention to them? Are you loving on them? Are you helping them? Do you know what maybe a need that they may have? And can you make it happen? I remember, I think I've shared this with y'all before, but I love the story. John Maxwell always says that one of his greatest lessons in life is walking through the back kitchens or walking through the back rooms of when he's going to speak. And so John always likes to, when you speak on big stages, they take you up through the back. And so he said he always loves to do that. And a lot of times he says he's walking through a kitchen, or he's walking through a setup team of people, a maintenance crew or whatever. And he said actually that's one of his favorite parts of getting to speak, because he actually takes the opportunity to learn something, because he said you can learn from them and they can learn from you. And more of anything, he may be able to say something to those people or to mark them so that they can be blessed. And I'm probably gonna butcher this story, but he told us a story one time of, I don't remember where he was, but he was getting ready to speak and he was walking through this kitchen, and he said he saw this lady that was working in the kitchen, and he said, how are you today? And they struck up conversation. And he said something about, he just was asking her, he just said he felt led to like kind of just pick her brain and pour into her and get to know her a little bit more. And long story short, somehow she said, yeah, my family, my son or my family member or somebody works for the National Symphony Orchestra. I don't know. Long story short, whatever it was, John said, oh my gosh, that's on my bucket list for me to take Margaret and sit in the front row of that. And we've never been able to do it or to make it happen. And this lady who worked in the kitchen of this place that John was going to speak in front of thousands of people was able to bless John and made that opportunity happen. And several months later, he took his wife and they went and sat in the front row at this National Symphony. Some of you may know what that is. I'm not a big symphony person, so I don't know. And anyway, he said it was because he took the time to stop and to talk to her and to just love on her and to see if she needed any help and to see how she was. And anyway, it turned into a big blessing for him. So the last thing is he talks about this lesson that I had actually this is from John Weiss in Lexington, Kentucky, by the way, that he said, live so that people will be honored to carry you out of this life. And I thought, man, that's a quote that like we all need to remember, because how often do you think about who your pallbearers are going to be, or if you're even going to have any, or how many you would be able to have, or who would step up and say, man, I cannot wait to carry Dana's casket. I mean, it's like we don't think of those things, but live life so that people will be honored to carry you out of this life. And I thought, man, that is such a powerful thing to think about. And to really focus on, and to just spend time on that, because, none of us know how many days we have on earth. And so I think it's just something really powerful to think about. And then ask those around you how you can help them. And just never think about it. Well, always think about, not never, always think about, we get so caught up in being able to just do what we're supposed to do. I'm gonna speak for myself. I get so caught up in just worrying about what I'm supposed to do every day, and the people that I need to take care of, and myself, and all those things, that sometimes I think I could be a lot bigger help to more people if I just actually took the time to figure out what I could do to help them, and to really do that. So I think those are just two really good, important things to think about. Let me go back to the chat really fast. Oh, Pam, I love that. One of the most important things for me was to pray for a defining moment for both my boys to know their life's work. That's such a powerful thing. And I would definitely say that those prayers were answered, because I know both of them are doing amazing things. It's beginning each week, 100 postal. Yeah, Amber, love that. During regular time, August to May, Mondays, when I get to see all my school babies every Monday there. So loved it's beginning each week. Yeah, I love that. I love that. Dawn, we have days where we have to say, yes, I love this job. Yes, very, very true. You and I talked about that this week earlier too, but there are some days where you're like, I hate this job, no matter what it is that you do. And we all have them. And then there are days where you're like, man, this was such a blessing. I love this job. So just to wrap up, I would really, really encourage you, if you have not already, to go watch The Road I'm On, the Garth Brooks documentary on Netflix. Has anybody already seen it? Just totally out of curiosity. Jeff, I saw that you had. Anybody else seen it? Okay. If not, you have to go watch it. You really are going to love it. I promise you. It is so powerful. I mean, like Adam was like, you're being a crybaby during this. I'm like, I know, I don't know why. It was just, there were so many good lessons, and just his mindset just totally blew me away. So that's your homework. Go watch the Garth Brooks documentary. I would love to hear your ahas or your notes or your feedback on that. One of the other things that he talked about, man, I mean, there were so many things, but I just don't want to spoil it for you, because I really want you to go and watch it. Yeah, I'm sorry. He was the greatest American solo artist of all times with 100 million albums sold. That's kind of his, he said that everybody said that Garth was the one who made country music cool from corny, that people back in those days thought it was kind of corny, and that he was the one who kind of made it cool. But he did say that, I know what it was. In the late 90s, he said he was the artist of the decade, but you wouldn't know this, but he lost his mom. His number one cheerleader in life passed away. He got divorced, and he said that was a big deal for him, because he never wanted to be part of a statistic. And for those of you who have ever been divorced, I totally agree with that. You just never want to be part of a statistic. So that happened to him. And then he stopped what he loved, which was music, because he retired at that time. So the whole world was calling him the artist of the decade. But behind the scene, he had those three crazy things going on, tragic things. And he said his mindset, I mean, he talks about how he just had to keep his mindset so strong, because a lot of people would have just crashed. And think about all the famous musicians that get on drugs because of this stuff, or they I mean, it's so sad, honestly. We can all think of so many. And that's why I just thought, man, I just had so much respect for him, for his story, because he's been through it just like everybody else has. He just chose to keep a different mindset and to push through. So watch Garth as your homework if you can. I can't wait to hear your feedback on that. You'll text me when you're watching it, because I'm like so anxious to hear if you like it or not. Keep writing your handwritten notes, and then engage on your Facebook group. If we have anybody that you want to invite, that would be awesome. Jason Abrams, oh my gosh, I feel so blessed that you are on here today. Oh my gosh, awesome. Thank you, Monica. Yay. Thanks, Caitlin. You guys have a great rest of your week, and I hope you have an awesome, blessed day. See you later. Love you, Blair.
Thanks for doing this, Dana.
Thanks, Jason. Thank you. See you guys.
Thank you.
Bye.